You are listening to the Giant Sports Show. Now, here's your host, Robert Wanek.
Good morning, everybody, from the Voice of the Valley. I'm Robert Wanek, and I am joined by Larry Lasch here on the Giant Sports Show. Larry, he teaches the kids at Wahpeton, he coaches them, and he drives the bus, so kind of a master of all trades. Thanks for coming in this morning, Larry. And how is the track season going? I know you had the Concordia Indoor Meet, and then you guys ran again. Were there any surprises to start the season from your runners?
There have been some really nice surprises. Number one was, I want to say the weather. We had our stuff on the track like the first week of practice. Kids are outside. They're getting stuff set up. Might take a turn for the worse here this weekend, but hey, it's gonna melt fast. So no, the weather's been a great surprise. For my kids so far, my same old standbys came back, and they came back really well. They looked really good. Jada Fobb has high jumped well. She'd ran good 400s, good 200s. I knew she'd be, a big cog in the wheel coming into the season, and she has not disappointed. Scout Woods, same thing, returning state champ in a shot put. A girl's indoor shot put that they throw at our two meets is the same weight, but it's a bigger circumference. And to throw one of those close to 40 feet is phenomenal. And she threw 39.2 last night. So she's looking solid as well. And Hallie Miller, she missed the first meet, but she was back last night. I thought she looked more athletic in basketball this year, and it showed on the track well. She ran a really good 55. Her first long jump of the season was a really nice jump. She ran a good 4x2 relay for us. So she's another old standby that is looking really good. On the girls, Leah DeVries, she made a switch from softball. Sorry, Mr. Dodge, if you're listening.
Yeah.
But wow, she came out for her first track meet. We had no idea what to expect, and she placed in the 55. She placed in the 200. She ran one of our faster legs on the 4x4, 4x2. She was running right behind Leah, right behind Jada. So Leah DeVries so far has been like here's my bonus kid that came out for track this year. And her sister was a good runner back in the day. So it doesn't surprise me she has the genetics for it, but she likes to compete.
So Leah, she did the center field last year for the Storm softball team, very talented. And then this year she saw her stock rise considerably in volleyball and basketball. So it looks like we're going to see a lot of the same here on the track season. So good for Leah.
Yeah, it was, I told her, I said, you're a senior, make a good decision. You don't want to regret something. And she came out for track, and so far no regrets on her behalf. So it's been fun. I got two 8th graders that they placed first and second last night in the 800, and they've been running legs on my 4x4 relay. And if you follow cross country, their name is no surprise. It's Lucy Comstock and Gracie Falk. And those two girls can just flat out compete. I don't think any stage is too big for them. So it's exciting for them. Another 8th grader that I brought up is Taylor Mauk, and she's made a huge splash in the sprints. She's just like her brother. She can get out and just flat out fly. And right now with Jada, Hallie, Taylor, and Leah, I looked this morning, and our girls 4x2 relay, just running it 2 times. Right now we're sitting second in the EDC with that, running some very, very good indoor times. And like last night at the track meet, we took 4 of the 8 places in the shot put, led by Scout. But Julia Lopez Lee, she's throwing well this year. Claire Woods, another 8th grader that we brought up, she's throwing very well. And then senior Ashlyn Kaler, who has just been steady for us, just a great leader. And Ashlyn has placed in both the track meets this year, too, in a shot put. So those are 10 girls that have been huge on my track team so far. And we have, 40, 30, 35 girls out this year. So
impressive. Good
numbers, really good numbers, yeah.
And Ashlyn is going to play volleyball at Alexandria for their newly formed volleyball team. And Jada, of course, Jada Fobb committed to go to NDSU for track and field. So she kind of hung up the leotard on what was a really good traveling gymnastics career and just put all of her chips on the table for track and field, and really overcame a little bit of a nagging injury history last year to put together a full season, and coming into this year looking strong. So good for Jada Fobb to kind of bounce back from that adversity. You're talking about state qualifying marks for Scout Woods, who was the state champion last year thrower, and now you're talking about the relays being pretty good. What are some events on your radar for potential state qualifying that you are sitting pretty nice at?
Jada, her high jump. She jumped 5 feet to first meet, 5'1" qualifying. And she has a high goal for placing in the high jump at state. Her 400 splits in the relay and the open have been really solid. So she'll qualify in the 400 if everything stays together. Our girls 4x1, 4x2, 4x4, I think all have really good shots to qualify. And, girls like Taylor Malk in the 100. You get outside on a nice day, maybe a little tailwind, it's warm out. I think she'll have a lot of potential. And other races like Leah in the 400, Gracie in the 400, Gracie Falk, Lucy Comstock. Those are races of 400s, 800s, where a little bit of hard work along with their talent, they'll see huge time improvements. So I'm excited for the girls. I'm back to Jada. She kind of dabbled, like you said, in track and field, and then when you're trying to do 2 sports at once, it's hard. It just takes a lot in your body. You don't get to rest. And for her, it was a very hard decision. But now this year as a senior, she's our best high jumper by far, and I have a bunch of freshman kids that are trying it, and she is right there mentoring them along the way. So both on and off the track, she's been a great leader for the team.
And talk about some of these kids. I could just name a couple that maybe not in contention for state last year, but like throwers like Matt Cummings and Landon Ralph. And there's just so many kids that just love track and they go out and they give it their all. Who are potentially your biggest risers that you see from last year to this year as far as terms of improvement?
I'll bring up Landon Ralph. He PR'd in 4 events at his first track meet. And you mentioned his name. The other day in practice, him and Matt Cummings were out messing around with the basketball at the end of practice. And I said, which one of you guys can grab the rim? And Ralph was like, I can do it. And Matt's like, no, you can't. So they made a side bet that if Landon could touch the rim, that Matt would have to run a 400-meter dash. And if he couldn't, then Landon would run it. And Landon didn't touch the rim. But, he came to the track meet, and if you would have saw him run to 400, you would never guess that he's a shot putter. He's just out there. He was having some fun. Some kid was right in front of him with a little bit to go, and he found a new gear. So it's just really exciting to watch these kids just flat out compete. It's not about winning the race all the time. It's just that I want to beat the kid next to me, and they just love to compete. Landon's not afraid to feel uncomfortable. You put him in a situation where maybe it's not his, like triple jump. He likes to triple jump. You would never guess most triple jumpers are tall, lanky guys, and Landon's pretty put together. But it's fun to see those kids just go out there and just try their hardest.
And that's where you find your most improvement, right? When you put yourself into the situations where you're maybe not as comfortable, and then you open the window for growth. So lace them up, Landon. You're now a sprinter, thanks to Mr. Matt Cummings. I love that intra-squad competition. What are some of the meets, Larry, that you're looking forward to the most this year? Obviously, there's going to be region, state, but what are some of the regular season meets that you're like, man, I just can't wait to get up that day and get after it?
Our home meet is always a fun one. The OJ meet here in Wahpeton, and this year it's April 30th. It's a Tuesday, the last Tuesday in April. It's just, you're on your home track, and you get a few local people that come out that maybe, unlike basketball or football where you have every other game at home, in track you're home twice all season. So that's always a fun one. The kids always enjoy going up to Packer Relays. Now this last year, the same weekend as Packer Relays, we also took an elite team down to Sioux Falls to the Howardwood Relays. So Jada will be a contender to qualify for that. Scout will be a contender. I think our girls' relay teams will be contenders to go down there. Trayton Monk in the 100, Jackson DeVries in a couple races. And last year was the first year I went to the Howardwood, and that was so exciting. You got your best athletes from Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Iowa all on one track. They always have 2 special elite races, invite only. And last year was the boys 800. And we're talking there was 8 guys on the track, and all of them ran 150 something. So it's fun to watch. Even our kids who are the best, Scout Woods is a state champ in North Dakota, and even she was a little wide-eyed down there, looking, wow, these girls are amazing, and she's going to fit right in. Jada's going to fit right in. So that I'm looking forward to the Howardwood Relays again.
I love that because when you look at the teams in town here, even when we've had cream of the crop teams and players, it's kind of you need to be thrown into that situation where it's hey, I do belong. You need to, even if you are the best, you don't always see the best because we're kind of on an island here in the valley. We're either playing Fargo teams or maybe we're playing teams that that are smaller, but it's not a consistent great competition that you face. So I like that your team is going to go to those Howard Wood relays. And that leads me to this. I think you guys have done a great job, your staff, with kind of fostering a love for running, whether that's track and cross country. You said Joy Watson, Allie Hare, they're training to possibly run a half marathon, getting ready for that stuff. And you're here today, you're training for the Fargo Marathon. Can you kind of take us through, you're in your whole Brooks attire, you're ready to go, it's warming up. What does the training entail for an experienced older runner like you to get ready for an event like that?
For me, it's just to get out of bed and put the shoes on. The interval, these kids do interval training in track and field, and man, that was 40 years ago for myself. Now it's just put on some headphones, and if you're going to run a 26-mile race or a 13-mile race, you just got to get out there and just enjoy running for an hour or two straight. But no, I don't come back with my hands on my knees anymore like these kids do for track practice. I just have to enjoy the day, just get out there and enjoy it.
So team-wise, obviously we have individual and team placing at these events. You guys are in the EDC, which Wahpeton is leaving for some sports with reclassification. Who are the top dogs in the EDC? Where do you guys rank? Can you just kind of take us through the bracket?
Boy, that's really hard to say. Our two track meets we went to, we haven't seen any EDC schools except for Shanley. Davies brought just a spattering of kids. Davies is probably top dog. Davies and the Red River girls are going to be really solid this year as well. They're good quality programs. Just like everything else, Horace is now on the up and up. Cheyenne had a really good boys team last year. So 11 teams. It's almost, in track and field, it's almost a split. You got Red River, you got Davies, you got Cheyenne, you have Horace. Fargo North is really good with the boys. Sometimes the girls teams slow down. The same with South. South has some killer boys in the 400 and 200 and 100. But then we compete well against Valley City. Right now the Valley City girls they got some good distance runners. We compete well against Central girls. Devil's Lake we compete well against. So you kind of got this split of the teams that just have, track is a numbers game. And we have, these quality athletes in our sprints, our jumps, our throws, but we don't have a lot of kids running the mile and 2 mile. And that's like where Fargo North will pick up a ton of points in a mile, 2 mile. So I would say, though, Davies and Red River, West Fargo, Cheyenne. West Fargo High used to be, but it's kind of like Fargo South, where the town is growing southward. And I think, where West Fargo used to be a juggernaut, now it's shifting towards Cheyenne, and now it's going to start shifting towards Horace.
So what is next for you guys? Obviously, we're going to probably be sheltered in place here for a couple of days, but what is tentatively on the schedule?
Well, we do have 2 more indoor meets on the schedule, and speaking of EDC, that is our next one, April 6th. So we'll find out how we stack up in the EDC. I got my boy, Trayton Mount. He ended up winning the 55 at the first meet, and he placed, I think, 4th last night. And we ran against Moorhead and Alexandria last night. So those were we had some good competition. And Trayton Mount, he came and he long jumped. He got second in that by a 1/4 inch. I just blame that on the marker. 1/4 inch, come on. But he is so steady. He is so fast. His first 50, 60 meters is just blazing. And with him, we just have to work on a little bit of speed endurance. We're not talking running 800s for him. Just maintain that top speed. Jackson DeVries had grown. I don't know if you noticed him in basketball and football. He's taller, and he is no slower. Him and Trayton are a marvelous 1-2 punch. And Jackson can stretch out and run a good 400 for me. Who else we got for boys here? J.D. Gomez is a junior, and he is super excited. Last night in the mile relay, he got the baton about 20 meters behind a Alexandria guy, and his first 200 split was probably his fastest 200 ever. Caught the guy, passed him, never looked back. So he is super jacked, and he'll run the hurdles for me. He's not afraid to go out there and run the hurdles. And JD kind of has a gangster attitude when it comes to track and field, where he just doesn't back down. I mean, if you got to have an alley fight, pick JD to be on your alley fighting team, because he'll take him down. Noah Berge from cross country, he ran a good 800 for me last night, and he ran a leg on that 4x4 relay. And you asked about a couple girls who were surprises. Evan Doctor came out for track this year. And in the first 2 meets, never doing track before, he's got some real potential. He's a sophomore, and he's long jumping, he's sprinting, and I think he's going to have to help Jackson and Trayton with our sprint relays. And another kid that's going to help us out, just a freshman, is Caden Barth. And if you look at him, he's unassuming. He probably weighs 140 pounds, but he can run fast and he can jump far. So I think he just needs to start hanging around Jackson and Trayton more and just, okay, here's what it's like to be really fast, but I don't think he'll back down. I think he'll accept a challenge. Carter Hockert, he joined us last night, and he was good last year, and I think he, too, sees an open window to run some relays with Jackson and Trayton. I mean, who wouldn't want to run with those guys?
Yeah.
Just go out there and handle the baton and run fast and turn left.
So we got Jackson DeFries, Trayton Mauk, J.D. Gomez. Those guys are all bark, all bite in the secondary for the football team. They're going to be leaders on the track and field team, too. That was Larry Lasch, head coach of the Wahpeton track and field team. We will be right back with Andrew Lunsetter of Wahpeton Huskies baseball. Thank you for coming on this morning, Larry, and good luck this season.
Thank you, Robert.
And now it's Andrew Lunsetter in from Wahpeton baseball, the coach of the year last year in Class A, former Northern State baseball player, second in RBIs in 2009. But enough about you, and let's talk about the team. So 18 wins last year, first EDC championship, third place at state. Just a phenomenal year. What are you going to build off?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be something that's hard to repeat, obviously. But I think the one thing that having that success brings is a winning culture. I think we've had that for a long time in our summer program, in the Legion program. We've seen some success in the high school program, but we've had a hard time maintaining that, I think, year to year. So I'm really hoping that the one thing that we could build off from that team that we've had the last couple of years is that winning success and that winning culture. That's something we've been talking about all week now since we started on Monday. It's like I think a lot of teams this year are going to look at us and think, well, we lost so much from that group that we had last year. I think they're going to look at us and think that they're going to have an easier time with us this year. And I, to my kids and to me, I want them to kind of approach that with a chip on their shoulder, like we got something to prove now, right? We finished on top in the EDC tournament last year, and that was something that was really enjoyable, and we had a great time with that, our first EDC championship, and I think that's a place that we want to get back to. And I mean, we have different pieces, but I think we have the pieces to really compete still this year.
Yeah, definitely a magical tournament at John Randall, where you just know how to play the field, the natural field there at JR, and I don't think any team hit over 250 in the EDC tournament. You just grind it out in EDC championship, and sometimes that low-scoring baseball, I love that brand of baseball, and it was Riley Timian who came in, saved the day as a pitcher in that. So this year, like you said, you're going to lose a lot of people. Walk-off home runs from Jackson Fleeflet won't be there, but you got to have some confidence in some guys. Who are the people you see leading the run production?
So, I mean, I think first and foremost, just as a player, we've got Jaden King coming back, who's been a 4-year starter for me. This will be his 4th year starting. He's a phenomenal pitcher. I would put him up against anybody in the state, I think, as a pitcher. And we're gonna look for Jaden to do damage in the middle of our lineup too. I mean, he's probably gonna be our 3-hitter this year. We're gonna ask him to do a lot. We're gonna put a lot on his shoulders, but I think that he can handle that. He's got a really good mindset. If you know Jaden at all, he's just a really quiet, unassuming guy. He doesn't get too high, he doesn't get too low. He kind of just takes everything in stride. He's a fantastic kid, and I think we're going to expect a lot from him. And then right behind him is probably going to be Braxton Pauley. Everybody calls him Bubba. He's one of those guys who, if he can put the fat part of the bat on the ball, it's going to jump. Guys like Skylar Blado, Cooper Klosterman, Nick Langenwalter, all guys that I had on my team last year. They got to see some innings here and there. Some of them more on defense, some of them more on offense. Braxton was more of a DH for us. Skylar got a bunch of innings in the field. We're gonna look at those guys that we've had on the team now that were with us. They kind of know what we're trying to do. They know the ins and outs of everything. Miles Hinckley's another one. Miles was kind of a designated fielder for us during our conference games, but Miles is a fast left-handed bat that's probably going to be somewhere near the top of the lineup. We're going to look for him to get on base, and we're losing a lot of team speed. We've been lucky to have a lot of team speed the last 2 seasons. I think we've had somewhere close to 75 or just under steals as a team the last 2 years. A couple of years ago, between Tori Ulick and Caden Kappas, we had over 60 steals, just those 2 guys. So we're not going to be that this year. We're going to kind of have to change things up a little bit, the way that we play, a little more station to station, be a little bit more thoughtful about the things that we do. Maybe have to play a little small ball here and there, which we already were doing anyway. But I think we're going to find a way to grind out some games this year too. That's kind of our style a little bit. We're going to rely on that pitching and try to keep a clean defense and score runs when we can.
Yeah, as far as you said, just to touch on this quick, with Braxton Pauley last year and in the Legion season, he didn't really bat a whole lot. You know, they were so deep. They had probably 12 guys who would have been starters for most teams. But I was able to get out to batting practice because we were filming the Boys of Summer documentary, which is now out on YouTube, and he was putting them over the fence. So if he can hit like he did off Steve Hockert just every once in a while, Braxton Pauley can definitely hold down a spot in the middle of the order, I would assume. And he also he can wear a pitch no problem. I mean, he's built like a brick house. So getting on base, getting walks, like you said, putting the fat part of the bat on the ball every once in a while, you might have something there in him. As far as goals go, overall as a team, is there any concrete goals that you see that you want to set before the season starts?
Yeah, I mean, I think our goal has to be look at 12 teams in the EDC. First and foremost, we got to get to, I think, around that maybe probably 5 conference win mark to cement our place in the EDC tournament. So our first goal has to be to make the EDC tournament. I think anything less than that would probably be a disappointment. We need to make the tournament, and then we got a guy like Jaden King who can beat just about anybody. So if we can roll him out there, we're going to have a shot in that game, and it doesn't really matter who it's against. And even though we have some really good teams at the top of our conference. And by the way, I mean, I didn't mention, we haven't talked about pitching much yet, but Braxton Pauley's no slouch on the hill himself. Skylar Blado can throw. Cooper Klosterman. We're still going to have some decent pitching depth. Obviously, replacing the Cadens on the mound is not really a possibility. Caden Hockert was fantastic. He was phenomenal last year. The last 2 years, really, but last year he was untouchable, basically, from the high school season through the Legion season. And Caden Kappas is about as good as anyone coming in and shutting the door. We could use him at any time that we felt we needed to. I mean, he could close out the game the day before and start the game the next day. I mean, he was just that kind of guy. Just really, those 3 guys that we had last year were really special. But like I said, Braxton Pauley's no slouch on the mound, and I think Skylar Blado is probably going to have to play shortstop for us this year. So he's kind of going to assume that Caden Kappas role a little bit more, where we're going to try to bring him in, I think, and close out some games if we can. He might not start as much as those other guys do. We'll probably look to Cooper Klosterman to start a little bit more, because I feel like we have some other pieces that on defense that we can afford to move. Shortstop is a hard position to cover when that guy's throwing on the mound. So,
yeah, the nice thing is, like you said, you lose some key positions here, but you plug him in. Like Braxton can kind of slide his way up towards the top of the rotation. I thought Nick Langenwalter did a fine job at catcher last year on B Legion. Skylar Blado can also catch, and he spent his bullpen sessions catching all of these star pitchers for the last few years. So
Skylar's a very good catcher. We're just going to need him at the shortstop position. So we've talked to Nick. Nick has been practicing catching for us. I feel like Nick could move over and play an infield spot if we need him to. But I think that we're going to be okay, and Nick's going to do a fine job for us behind the plate, and then we can afford to have Skylar at shortstop. So although Skylar is probably would be our starting catcher if we had a better option at shortstop. I shouldn't say a better option. I should say a different option at shortstop.
And
I don't see that right now.
Depth is always going to be something that you guys lack in comparison to the other EDC teams too. So people should understand that. So who are some of the best dugout guys that you have as far as like keeping it light, maybe keeping people on track? Obviously, you're going to have a smorgasbord of stuff going on with the Malmy twins, and then you have Cooper and Nick Langenwalter. So there's certainly characters, but I guess who's the best personality to have in the dugout? A couple of them.
I mean, I think this year it's going to be pretty special. I think that's kind of what these guys are known for. You touched on the Malmies. We hadn't had a chance to talk about them yet. They are characters for sure. I think these guys, we have a handful of seniors. We're going to have 11 seniors this year. So although it's not a lot of varsity experience, we do have that age and maturity a little bit. I think that and a handful of those guys, they only play baseball. They don't play other sports during the year. They're baseball guys. They really enjoy being around it, being around the game, being together. The Malmies, McCade Pickens got a great personality. Cooper Klosterman, I mean, you saw some basketball this year, obviously. Cooper Klosterman's he's a great teammate. He's a leader. He's a vocal leader. He leads by example. I think he does everything that we look for in a player. Like Jaden King is going to go out and just get the job done, but Jaden's not going to say a whole lot. Jaden's kind of just going to do what he does, and the guys are going to look to him to lead on the field by example. But I think the vocal leader is probably Cooper Klosterman. He's got that personality. He's always saying the right things. He's always building everybody up. And I think in the dugout, those, like we said, the McCade Picken, the Malmies, Cooper, and Nick Langwalter, that group, they just really they hang out together. They get along together. They have a lot of fun. And I think we're gonna really enjoy this year. We're gonna have some ups and downs. It's gonna be a bit of a roller coaster, I think, at times, but I think it's gonna be a lot of fun with this group.
I'm super excited for the Huskies baseball season for just the sole fact that so many of these talented players, no doubt talented players, have just been buried on the depth chart by default. As Wahpeton has built this strong varsity run that led to their first EDC championship and, of course, a couple state championships in Legion. And all of these guys have handled that so well, and now it's their time. And a lot of people would have just kind of stopped putting in the work or maybe quit. I mean, you see it all the time, but these people have kept coming back, and I mean, it's a credit to what you guys do, too, that they know if they put in the work that it's going to be their time when it comes. So that was head coach Andrew Lunsetter, 2023 Class A Coach of the Year for Wahpeton, that historic season. Thank you for joining us today, Andrew.
Thanks a lot, Robert. Appreciate it.
Coming up next, I got Jack Hiedeman from Cowboy Baseball heading into year 2 at the helm. We'll hear from him and what the Cowboys can build on after their decent finish to last season. I'm Robert Wanek here at the Voice of the Valley. Just wrapped up with Andrew Lunsetter of Wahpeton Huskies baseball. Lots of question marks for that team, but they've certainly set the compass in the right direction. And I'm here with another high school baseball coach, Jack Hiedeman, the second-year head coach for Breckenridge, the Breckenridge Bucks power hitter. Left the yard a couple times, plays catcher, pitcher, and shortstop. But let's just start off talking about your high school team and what you're looking forward to heading into your second year.
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Robert. I'm very excited about the high school season. You know, we've had a tough run the last couple of years. I think 2 years ago we had 1 win, and last year we had 5 wins. And this year we're still a super young team. No seniors this year.
Wow.
So we got no seniors. That class, we've just never had very many ball players in it. We got 5 juniors this year that should help us out, but we're going to be a young team yet again. So I feel like I've been saying that for a couple of years, broken record. But we are kind of that sophomore and freshman class. Both have a lot of players, a lot of talent. We'll definitely get some help from those juniors. But once again, we are an inexperienced team. And so a couple of those juniors are bringing some playing time from last year, which is good. But we're outside the first week, MSHSL, so March 11th, we had a throwing week. This past week was our first week, but I'm very optimistic. Guys are working really hard. I don't know what the lineup's going to look like yet. There's still a lot of question marks as far as who's going to fill what role, but guys are getting after it. They're really optimistic. They're working really hard, and so I definitely plan to build on last year. I think we're going to have a better year, and we definitely have a good shot to at least be very competitive in a lot of games this year.
And Breckenridge is in Class A, so the lowest class of Minnesota baseball. It doesn't get any easier for them playing in the Heart of Lakes. You get to play Perm and DGF and all those teams. And with enrollment going down, it just takes a little bit longer nowadays, folks, for the rebuilds. Like the basketball team, we see them getting better. But like you said, there's only a couple seniors on all these teams. The Breckenridge girls basketball team had 0 this year. So it takes a little bit more time. And I like what you guys are doing over there in Breckenridge. 5-15 last year, 3-3 to close out the season.
Yep.
And averaging 8 runs a game in that stretch. So what did you see that you guys did improve on?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's just for a lot of these guys, it was just so much that they were kind of figuring out on the fly. And really, we were like, for a lot of them, I mean, they're JV players just thrust into a varsity role. And this year, again, for a lot of kids, it's probably the same thing. And so you're jumping up from like 14-year-old Babe Ruth to varsity baseball the next spring. And so it is a massive jump. And so I think it's just, one, the speed of the game, but also just all the little things, right? How do you defend a bunt? Okay, like first and third situations, not giving up all these extra bases. Cuts, right? Whenever this ball hits the outfield, making sure the ball is going to the right spot. Just, I think a lot of them, it's just the mental side of things, and like all the little, where a guy takes a base, right? The value of like, no, we want to keep him there. We can't let guys move around. So it's just all the things, holding runners on. I mean, there's a million little nuances in the game of baseball, as you know, Robert, that when you don't do them well, you don't even almost notice it, but the other team's just running wild on you. And when you can limit all those things, you can really keep runs off the scoreboard. And then offensively, just doing a little bit better job of putting the ball in play. We were really, really strikeout prone early in the year, which just, I mean, it happens in the major leagues all the time, but they can hit home runs, right? Well, we don't have that power. And so when we just are automatic outs by not putting the ball in play, we make it really difficult to score runs. So we did a better job at the end of the year, battling at the plate, putting the ball in play, which led to some runs scoring, and then our defense just shored up a little bit, all right, kept some runs off the board, and we did a pretty decent job pitching with what we had and closing out some games. So this year, hoping to kind of build off of that. Some of those young guys now have kind of seen it for 1 year, and so hoping they can just grow again as players and lead to more wins this year.
Yeah, and baseball is a unique sport in that way. Like you said, you can have the most talented team and do a couple situational things wrong, make a couple mistakes, and not win very many games. You can have a not very talented team and tighten everything up and win some games. So it's really a day-to-day grind of getting those little things done, which is why I think it's one of the tougher sports to coach and one of the most frustrating sports. How do you work on dealing with the mental part of the game with the younger players? Is there anything that you do in practice, conversations off to the side, just to kind of stress the importance of really limiting mistakes?
Yeah, and it is a really hard thing, especially with young guys, because it's so easy to get frustrated. And then that frustration leads to bad habits, and then you kind of get out of it. And especially when you've had a tough time as a team winning ball games, it's easy when things don't go right to just be like, well, here we go again, right? Roll over, let it get out of hand. And so, I mean, I guess kind of like Andrew was talking about, building a winning culture and a winning mentality, that's something we're working really hard on. And so for me, yeah, I want to build on 5 wins from last year, but a little bit, and then Kevin, my dad, who coached for a long time, always said this, winning is a byproduct of doing everything right. So I think as players and as a team, if we can do all the little things right and we can personally take care of all the things we need to do and get better, then the wins will come, right? Those things will take care of themselves. But it really starts with just taking care of business and doing all the things that we're supposed to do right, doing our job, and then that will lead to closer baseball games and playing better down the line. So just kind of staying with it and mentally just putting ourselves in the best position possible to make the plays we can.
And when we talk about baseball, we're not talking about one person being able to score 30 points or run for 200 yards in a football game and win you the game. But if there is one person that can win you the game, it's somebody on the mound doing a good job. And Trey Vogelbacher, at times last year, was lights out. What is the ceiling for him as a pitcher?
Yeah, so Trey, as a sophomore last year, was awesome for us. From the very first game in high school all the way through Legion, he was kind of our guy. Always throws strikes, changes speed wells, and he does a really good job just battling and keeping us in the ball game. And so this year it's going to be the exact same thing. We're really going to lean on him a lot as to be kind of our lead pitcher and to just basically have him, as much as the pitch count allows, he's going to be the guy we want out there as much as we possibly can. So he's going to definitely be at the top of our staff, leading us there. And same thing, he's a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, so I'm hoping the fastball is a few ticks faster this year, keep working on that breaking ball, and then just he does a good job locating. And so if he can do those same things, again, he'll just be successful, and I think he'll just even get better as the year goes on as well. A couple other guys, Quentin Lugert, who last year as a freshman, little left-hand guy, really impressed me during high school. He kind of came up midway through the year and pitched against DGF, kept us right in the game, did very well against Border West, who was a really good team at the time. We ended up actually winning that ball game with him. So he did really well for us. So, again, I'm looking for him to build off that as well. Pitcher from the left-hand side, we don't get a lot of those in Breckenridge. So when you get a lefty like that can do a good job of holding runners, and he changes speeds, and he's just crafty. He's got a lot of movement on his pitches, so he's a guy that he can be hard to hit. He gets a lot of ground balls, so he'll have to throw a lot of innings for us this year as well. Jackson Riggs, another guy who's only a sophomore, so I expect him to be on the mound a bit this year, helping us eat up some innings. And then all the other guys are going to have to fill in. Gavin Hoffert, who was a freshman last year, played shortstop for most of the year. He'll have to throw some innings. Gabe Armitage, who's a sophomore, not on the varsity team, but I expect he'll have to be eating up some innings. Even guys like Charlie Krejcia, right? And I'm probably forgetting guys as well, but we have a couple. Yeah, Logan Church for sure. Actually, he's a guy that he's another left-handed pitcher who's he's not gonna blow by you, but he's gonna throw this big curveball at you. He's a great change of pace pitcher, and he'll throw all day. He's got a rubber arm. I mean, and he's a competitor, and he loves to be out there. And so, thank you for reminding me. Logan Church is a guy that definitely will be starting some games for us this year. He'll be eating up some innings for sure, and he loves it. I mean, the kid loves to pitch. So I don't exactly know what the rotation is going to look like, and sometimes it's just we fill him in as we go. Lawson Elephant, another guy that has some velocity on his fastball, and I hope that kind of continues to tick up. So Trey will be at the top. Quentin will lead up some innings, Logan as well, and the rest of the guys, when we get a lot of games, especially with this new weather coming in, who knows how many games we get pushed in a tight frame, but we're going to have to find some innings from a lot of guys. So there's going to be guys that get an opportunity that maybe usually don't, that see what they can do with it.
Yeah, and I like watching lefty pitchers. I mean, everybody that watches baseball loves watching lefties. So they have Quentin Lugert. He's kind of got the three-quarter arm slot. It was kind of funny last year versus Border West. The players on the bench were kind of heckling him, calling him Bartolo Colon. He's a little bit of a bigger kid, but, when you're a pitcher, you kind of got your power push and your base. It's not uncommon to be a little bit bigger as a pitcher, and he just mowed them down, and he kind of just, ate up the jeers, and it was awesome, especially to see a young kid unaffected by it, but also feeding off of it. That was really cool. And then Logan Church, of course, he'll hit you with the 50-mile-per-hour fastball, and then he'll hit you with the 12-6 curve. And as long as he keeps it in the zone, I think that there's an opportunity to get plenty of weak contact off that. And, of course, if they're hitting him hard, you've got other options. So it's a nice mix with those two, and they're definitely unfinished products, too, both of those pitchers.
Oh, for sure. That's the thing. We're so young still. So it's like we saw some really good things last year, but as we get older and as these guys continue to put in the work of practice, we're going to get better. At least that's the expectation, and they definitely have the potential all to get a lot better. And we're not going to be striking a lot of guys out. I mean, Trey will have his moments where he definitely can, but we need to make plays as a defense. And so last year we had really good moments, and then sometimes we had some snowball fights where things got out of hand. And so this year, we've been working a lot on the defensive side of things, definitely with our infielders. Gabe Armitage, I think, will help us out a lot in the infield as well. So we have some guys that definitely have potential, and just by making a few more plays and staying with it, we'll definitely keep more runs off the board, definitely stay in games a lot longer. So, I'm really excited. I mean, I think we definitely have a team that can do some things this year, and it might be a little bit up and down as we kind of go through some growing pains, but guys are into it. They're working really hard, and so I think that we really have the opportunity to be really competitive this year in a lot of games.
And we'll quickly hit on this. Where does the run production profile to come from? I know you can't get too deep into what the lineup might be, lots of moving parts, but where are some, I shouldn't even say veteran players, but who are some experienced players that you've already seen it out of that you're going to rely on for the scoring?
Yep, so Trey Vogelbacher actually had a really good Legion season as far as run production, so he'll be at the top end of the order somewhere for sure. He's a guy that can drive and runs for us, extra base hits as well. Jackson Riggs, when he's playing, he's been playing for a long time. And so as long as he's on, he can be a very good hitter for us as well. Gavin Hoffert last year, I think, batted over 300 to end the high school season. It was pretty solid in Legion as well. So he'll probably be up in there as well, only a sophomore. We got Paul Armitage back this year. He ran track last year. So really happy to have him out for baseball. Yeah, and he's put on some weight. He's looking very strong. And so I expect him to be in the lineup somewhere as well. And he's a guy that just with the amount of muscle he's put on after a really good football season, he'll be able to hit for us a little bit too. So, some of those guys definitely in the lineup. And then there's a lot of question marks. So a lot of guys will absolutely have the opportunity, and then it's just what you do with it a little bit. So more guys in there for sure, but those three at least stand out to me for sure.
And then we'll end here talking a little bit about the Breckenridge Bucks. So Jack plays on the Bucks, who are the team is now coached by your dad, Kevin.
Yep.
He's kind of just hanging out, giving you guys pointers.
You can't get away from it. Yep.
This is an adult team, a town ball team, amateur baseball team. So it's a little bit kicked back, but it's definitely not beer league softball, folks. There's former college players. Sometimes current Legion players will play during the summer, so they're in their prime, ready to go. And then you'll see some 45-year-old pitchers who can just paint the black, too. So it's a really fun part of America's pastime. There's over 300 teams in Minnesota. What do you expect out of the Bucks this season? What are you guys bringing back?
Yeah, so we should be bringing back most of our lineup, hopefully adding a couple guys as well. We're in a different region this year. They moved us up to north, so we'll be playing some Moorhead teams, Fargo teams like the Moorhead Brewers, who got a lot of ex-NDSU guys and a couple ex-minor leaguers. So that'll be tough. They're a really good team, but it's fun to actually play against those guys, get some good competition. So, yeah, it'll be a really fun year again this summer. It's good to get out and still play, kind of stay with it. And, yeah, it should be another fun one.
Yeah, the team was really fun to watch last year. A couple winning seasons and lots of home games this year. So I'll get around to getting that schedule published on our Facebook at kbmwnews.com. Working on getting some streams for those games.
Nice.
Because I think that'd be fun. During the summer, the Bucks play on a lot of weekends, which means a lot of you guys are at the lake. So if we can stream that and you could pop it open on your cell phone or YouTube, I think it'd be fun. Maybe you watch Jack hit a couple home runs, right,
Hopefully,
Jack?
yeah.
So that was Jack Hiedeman, the successor to his father, Kevin Hiedeman, certainly my favorite coach of all time. So I think the kids are going to be in great hands over there for Breckenridge baseball. Coming right back, I'll have Park Masterson from the NDSCS Lady Wildcats as the basketball team heads to Wyoming for the national tournament. Welcome back to the Giants Sports Show. I am joined this morning by Park Masterson, head coach of the NDSCS Lady Wildcats. They are headed back to the NJCAA Division I national tournament, this time in Wyoming. So Park's here. She's going to give us the scoop. How's it going, Park?
Good. Good to be here. How are you?
I'm doing great. So last year was the first time that you guys won a game at the national tournament.
Yep.
You guys went and upset number 12 Eastern Arizona, 72-66. You guys were the number 21 seed. And came back from 13 points down in that game. Very exciting.
Yeah.
So going into this year, you guys have a little bit of a lower seed again. Can you just give our listeners seeding, opponent, game time, just all the information about the game on Tuesday?
Yeah, for sure. Yep. So game on Tuesday, you're right. It's in Casper, Wyoming this year as opposed to Lubbock, Texas. Casper Community College won the bid. We will play Tuesday the 26th at 4:45 Mountain Time. So I believe that's 5:45 Central. We're going to play Eastern Florida State. They are the 10 seed, like you said. We are the 23 seed this year. And yeah, we're, last year, like you just said, we were the 21, we played the 12, we upset them. We came back from a 13-point deficit. It actually, I may have already said this, but we actually planned for that, in our scout that, not specifically, we're going to let them get up or anything, but hey, there's going to come a time where we anticipate being down a little bit and to not let that break us and to understand how to chip away and come back from that. So really exciting win last year, and we've been scouting and preparing for Eastern Florida State this week and everything. Excited to see them.
And I love that part about the seeding here. It's not like 1 versus 16. It's like number 10 versus number 20-ish, so it seems to be anybody's ball game in a lot of those, and that's a good part about the JUCO tournament. Can you kind of, I'm sure you've watched film on them already. Can you kind of tell us your style, and when you're playing at your best, what is your style, and what is their bread and butter?
Sure. For us this year, I think we've learned through the year that we have a really good defensive philosophy, and we've been exceptional at limiting teams in their possessions and in their scoring and holding them below their scoring averages. So Williston State College in the Region 13 championship, we held them to their lowest points scored in the entire season in their only overtime game of the season. So I'd say that's really big for us in that defensively packing it in, knowing their personnel, forcing them into contested, uncomfortable shots, not giving them second chance opportunities, and slowing it down, not letting anyone beat us in a foot race or turning it into a track meet transition kind of thing. And then offensively, really valuing our possessions. We have a really high team field goal percentage. I believe it's 44%, something like that. One of the top 20 in the country, I believe, at the moment, right behind Eastern Florida State. And then we're currently leading the country in free throw percentage as a team. So we shoot 78% from the free throw line. Again, huge in the region championship game. We scored, I believe it was 12 points in overtime, and 10 of them were from the free throw line. From Savannah Jones and Quinn Nepple to give us that win. And then again, we went 20 for 21 in the district championship from the free throw line, to put us ahead there as well. So for us, that would be it. We have some really key, scores, but I also think we're well balanced across the board. We don't have, we definitely have young women who can go off for 20 or 30, but I think across the board we're pretty well distributed, and I think that's hard to guard when everyone can score the basketball. And then for Eastern Florida State, they do have, if you've looked at them, I'm sure they have a big post, 6'3", committed to Virginia Tech for next year. But she plays more like a guard, actually, shooting one of their higher three-point percentages on the outside. They're very, very quick, very, very long, very fast, efficient, strong. They play in a fantastic conference and everything down in Florida. They're obviously really, really strong conference and teams. But I'm expecting them to want to play fast, play hard, get out in transition, attack the rim, knock down threes. They've got, some three-point specialists, knock down some threes when they can. They have some pretty even spread scoring as well. And then defensively, they really pack it into and limit teams' scoring abilities around the rim. And obviously, their 6'3" post, she's a great rim defender. So she's kind of in there averaging, I forget, but something 5-6 blocks a game. So looking to send you to the fifth row.
So who's going to get more rebounds? I would say the 6'3" post or your 5'7" guard, Shania Nichols-Vanette. She's like double-double machine. I believe she's got one triple-double this year, which leads me to this point. Could you just describe your backcourt first? You have, like you said, a litany of good players. Mm-hmm. Maybe McKenna Cuomo's playing 35 minutes and scoring 0 points and playing good defense. Maybe Jordan Toman is scoring 15. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you have Nepple, Berryhill, and Vanette. Could you just kind of describe the whole unit?
Yeah. Well, I sure hope that Shania out-rebounds their team. And she's feisty. If you've watched us, I mean, she's just a tough, feisty kid, and she gets in there. All credit to her for grabbing the board. I will give her teammates some credit for boxing out and, creating that space. But she gets in there, she grabs it, she rips it. If we can handle their better rebounders and she can fly in there, that would be fantastic for us. But, yeah, our guard presence, I think people underestimate us. I think that's a huge advantage we have at the national tournament, right? Like we come my starting lineup and my roster is predominantly Minnesota and North Dakota, and that was the same thing as last year. And people, kind of underestimate what we can do and who we are, and we show up and they realize that we are an extremely gritty, skilled, don't back down kind of team. But Shania, fantastic field goal percentage, 3-point shooting percentage, downhill finishing. Hit them from the outside when we need her to. She kind of increases the pace, and she really is a spark for us to kind of get the aggressive, finishing and everything going. Obviously, Berryhill, fantastic outside shooter, and she's a guard, but she's one of our better post defenders, so huge to have her have those abilities, gives us that advantage. Michelle Aarons, a guard who also, she's actually going to guard their 6'3" post for us, and I think that's going to give us a great advantage with, her guard abilities. Defending on the outside and then hopefully being able to get downhill around her. But like you said, Toman, Nepple, Cuomo, all coming in and contributing consistently. And, maybe it's not Quinn's night, but now it's McKenna's night. Or maybe it's not McKenna, now it's Jordan or something. So, it's really fun to see them kind of step into those things and step up. And, they're feisty, they're fun, and I've really enjoyed coaching them this year.
And a look at how the Wildcats got to this point, 27-6, 7 wins in a row. Got over Lake Region State College, kind of their regular season kryptonite, in the region semifinals, 61-47, a impressive win against a team that had beat you guys. Williston State College, the number 1 seed, you go there, you beat them by 3 in overtime, and then you go play Malcolm X College, the long drive to Chicago area, correct?
Yes. And
you win by 13 and hold off some runs, which I thought was very impressive. Can you take us through the district title game versus Malcolm X?
Yeah, for sure. As you said, obviously we had to travel down to Chicago. So we went through Milwaukee, and we got to practice on the University of Milwaukee's one of their courts. So that was a really fun experience, and I really appreciate their coaching staff allowing us in there. And just fun for the girls, give them that opportunity, which I always hope to do more than basketball and give those opportunities to them. But yeah, so traveling down, it was a good 11-hour total drive that we broke up over 2 days. So on the road, kind of tough, tired. We get there, we practice in another city college gym, and then game day, 11 a.m. game, also kind of unique and not what we're used to. But, we played Miles the very first game of the year at 8 a.m. in the preseason tournament.
Ouch.
So, yeah, we've had that the last 2 years, and it's tough, but I kind of love it. So, but yeah, so, some adversity, I guess, a little bit, just kind of unique situations. But, Malcolm X, we knew they upset Triton. So Triton's been the 1 seed the last 3 years, I believe, and been upset every year. But so Malcolm X, really tough, very athletic, very gritty team, more of a quantity over quality. kind of team. And then they have an effective post, a 6'2" post there in Riviera, who was their leading scorer and rebounder, had multiple 20-point and 20 rebound games. So we knew we had to contain her on the inside, grab boards, not let her or any of their bigs have second chance opportunities. Their guards, they were quick, they have really good first steps, so we needed to contain them as well and kind of give them that space and make sure that we could keep them in front of us and limit our fouls. So our goals going into the game, the three things we said we couldn't have happen is we couldn't foul them, we couldn't turn the ball over, and then we couldn't send them to the free throw line and get ourselves obviously in foul trouble and give them those opportunities. Those were the three kind of biggest focuses, and then slow the game down. Again, they're very fast, they're very athletic, so if we could make them kind of set up in the half court, we definitely had a better advantage there. It was a rough game, a little bit. We didn't get to play for 2 weeks, so that was really hard from the Williston game, to not compete for 2 weeks and kind of trying to shake that rust off and then wake up and get all your joints moving from the travel and everything. But you know what? I'm proud of them. They showed up. They did it. Like you said, they handled some runs. There was definitely, and I don't know if you could feel it from the live stream, but there's moments where Malcolm X would hit a big shot or have a couple kind of big plays or possessions, and their gym would erupt, and we handled it. So that was my phrase for the weekend too, is handle it. Whatever comes your way, you handle it. Contact, handle it. They don't make your call, handle it. We make a mistake in a play, handle it. Whatever we do, and we handled it. They hit a great shot, but then we came back and we hit a couple or got some rebounds or whatever. And some defensive stops. So I thought they did a great job of that and getting it done. And putting them away, I didn't love how close they hung around for how long they hung around. But a win's a win, and an on-the-road win out, in a new gym, in a new place. I'm really proud of them to have pulled that off.
So if you're just tuning in now, I'm joined by NDSCS Lady Wildcats basketball coach Park Masterson. 2 years at the helm, 2 trips to the NJCAA tournament. That game's coming up on Tuesday versus Eastern Florida State in Wyoming. 5:45 p.m. tip. We'll have that here on the Voice of the Valley. Not sure who's going to call it yet. But before I forget, Park, I didn't mention the front court. You said you're going to have a 6'3" post from Eastern Florida State, and you have a first-team all-conference player in Savannah Jones, and you have some other useful pieces down there. What is the game plan?
Yeah, it's interesting you asked that. So it's kind of the same idea we went into against Malcolm X, and I think it was really effective. So we're thinking right now we're going to put Michelle Ahrens on their 6'3" post, and then Savannah Jones on number 4. I think she's 5'11", 6 foot post. Because her help side, Savannah Jones, like you said, all conference, all region player, phenomenal post game for us, extremely long, great rebounder, great rim protector for us as well. But having Michelle be able to guard their post, who I think really likes to extend the floor and step out and contain her that way, and then have Savannah stay inside, be able to kind of double in the paint, be that backside help. And then number 4 on their team, she's a bit more of not a single 3 on the season, more of a downhill rim attacker. Keep her on her. So hopefully, kind of match up a bit better, maybe in that way, having a guard. I know it may seem a little crazy, but a guard more on their tallest player, and then our effective post on their rim finishing back to the basket. And then, a lot of digging, forcing the ball out. They have a number of shooters, like I said, but also a number of guards who haven't shot it. They have one 5'7" point guard who hasn't taken a single 3 on the year. So, reading that, digging down, giving space, forcing them into shots they don't want to take, and then hopefully boarding it and going the other way.
So the NJCAA tournament is 32 teams, right?
24.
24. So like last year when NDSCS won their first ever women's basketball game at the tournament, you're in the Sweet 16.
Yes.
So, you have something to play for immediately. And if you look at this, we're kind of on an island with scheduling with science schools, so it's hard to face the top competition.
Yes.
It's just hard to get out of the region. Mm-hmm. But the powerhouse that has become NDSCS women's basketball, we have Ivane Tensaya. She went to Penn State. She's now at UTEP. Mm-hmm. She's in a starting role a lot of these games. She's getting better. Amba Kauken went to Wichita State.
Yep.
Tiny Lewis, she's at
Eastern Illinois.
And she's the starting point guard at Eastern Illinois, scoring double figures. Grace Massaquoi is at NDSU. Yep. And Miley Hunt also moved on. So you are putting some players on to the next level, and that's truly, you are a transfer college. Mm-hmm. What does it look like this year? You getting some calls on some of your players, and who's drawn some interest from your roster?
Yeah, absolutely. All the credit, the young women that you just mentioned, all of them, I've had the pleasure of coaching either in an assistant or a head coaching role. And I just really appreciate all of them and as basketball players and as people. And I actually have been texting. I texted Amba. She was texting with me yesterday and everything, and Yvonne last week and whatnot. But just really proud of them for what they've done since their time here. And they're just phenomenal players and people, and it's really fun to watch them. And them really building the foundation for me to build off of, right? Them having great careers really makes my life easier and helps me recruit young women. That's how I get, the current team that I have. And then, great players recruit great players, and we've continued to build that way. So I just appreciate them and everything. But yeah, always getting calls from coaches, which I also really appreciate. Coaches calling us. Obviously, there's some coaches, who consistently know what we do. I get a few different and new coaches every year. But going to a national tournament definitely draws attention. And coach called me yesterday, 2 days ago. Hey, coach, your team is one of the top in field goal percentages. Let's chat. So seeing us, in our efficiency and the numbers we put up and everything is drawing attention for sure as a team. Individually, I mean, you're probably not surprised, but I mean, Savannah, Shania, Michelle, Quinn, Ariana, all drawing interest and attention from different coaches across the board, wanting to check out their film, talk about them. We had some D1 coaches come to the district game to watch us, and we've had a few coaches come down throughout the year and everything. So yeah, lots of interest across the board for everybody, and I'm really proud of them. And yeah, again, coaches realizing, I say it all the time, it's really fun to have a team that's predominantly Minnesota, North Dakota, and to get that representation and to kind of show everybody what we can do and the skill and the talent and the young women that we have out here and the kind of basketball that we play.
So we talk about the shooting percentage. We talk about some of these analytics. You guys can head on over to ndscswildcats.com. Check out the tab for the women's basketball team. New look website. It looks great, and you'll see just how balanced the team is there. Again, that was NDSCS Lady Wildcats basketball head coach Park Masterson. Delivered the program its first ever national tournament win last season with a chance to double that up on Tuesday in Wyoming, 5:45 p.m. KBMW, the Voice of the Valley, will have that game. I will be right back with your calls of the week on the Giants Sports Show. I'm Robert Wanek on AM 1450 KBMW.